Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. We're continuing our candidate interviews, and today we're doing the state legislature, District 37B, with Susan Delean Botkin. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you very much, Greg. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you live in Oxford. You are the president of the Talbot County School Board.
That's correct.
You're on that end of District 37. We're on this end of District 37, so it's a big district. So people in Wycomico might not know you so well, so tell us who you are.
I am Susan Delean Botkin, and I'm running for District 37B, which runs from 404 to the north and Wycomico to the Salisbury to the south. It's a huge district in Chesapeake Bay on the west and the Delaware line on the east. So it's quite a diverse area. Salisbury, of course, is our largest city in the area. And that has slightly different problems than Oxford, which has all of 400 people in it.
Right.
I am president of the Talbot County Board of Education. I have my own healthcare practice. And in fact, I studied here at Salisbury University. In addition, I am also president of the Oxford Appeals Board, which deals with comprehensive plan issues, and was president and legislative chairman of the Nurse Practitioner Association of Maryland. So and of course I run my own business. So I have a variety of things that I feel qualify me for the position of delegate in District 37B.
Well, knowing Addie Eckert like I do, and she's covered this district for a long time, she says her car is completely worn out from all the miles she has to drive because it is such a big district. Yeah. But there are 2 delegates in this district. You're one of 3 people in the race. So tell me, why did you decide to do this? Why do you want to be a delegate?
I really felt great personal responsibility as we were going through this COVID situation. I had 2 different sets of things coming at me and kind of affecting everything I did. First, we had the healthcare system. And running a small practice, we have about 2,000 patients. I was seeing what we were going through, what was happening, and I saw huge cracks in our system. You mentioned Addie, who is also a very good friend, and we have worked together on legislation for years. But we brought up things like nursing. We lost 500,000 nurses in this country over the last 2 years. People are saying, well, we'll just retrain them. You can't just retrain them. It takes at least 4 years to get qualified nurses in your ICUs, your ERs, even in private practice. So we need to re-engage them. That's one of the first things that struck me when we were going through the COVID situation. The other thing was really basic, and I mean basic. We ignored our primary care providers. I am a primary care practitioner, and I know that when I recommend to my patients that you really do need a flu shot, it's going to help you in many ways going through the winter, may even prevent colds. They will listen to their primary care providers. But instead of engaging us, they went from the top down and pushed everybody so that there was a tremendous amount of anxiety. And that does not bode well for the healthcare system when you have a lot of anxious persons with insufficient individuals to actually care for them. So that was item number 1 that started me on this path. Number 2 was the school systems. As president of the Talbot County Board of Education, I was directly involved with our students, with our teachers, with our administrators. We were watching what was happening. We didn't have sufficient broadband. So how were our students going to be learning from home if they couldn't get lessons online? So we actually had to go out. We had to put hot spots around. So you'd have whole clusters of cars at a shopping center, and they were all sitting there eating their McDonald's hamburgers or whatever while they were trying to get their lessons from their teachers. We had, and this is throughout the district, we have way too many families that qualify for free or reduced meals. They just do not have sufficient income to cover what they need to have. We have too many children who are actually homeless, couch surfing, spending nights in places I wouldn't want to spend a night. And so we had to make provisions for all of that. We had to make sure our kids were fed. We had to make sure our kids had places to live. And then the education piece fell in there. And I thought, this could happen again, and we are not prepared. And that's when I decided I have to step up. I felt so responsible to see that we make sure that this doesn't happen in the future to our kids, our patients, our citizens. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's a really unique perspective because you're there on the battle lines with the school system, with the teachers who are completely overwhelmed with everything that's gone on with COVID, and the nurses certainly in the care places. And you see, there was a story today, the nursing shortage that they thought maybe would even out after COVID was over. It's worse.
It's worse.
These people have not come back to work, so there's still all this stress in the medical centers.
Exactly. I mean, I can tell you story after story of nurses who came into the practice and were talking about their stress and saying, this is what happened to me. I am pregnant. I have 2 small children at home. My husband is definitely helping out with this, but I had a supervisor come down, tell me I had 15 minutes to make a decision whether I would go down to the COVID unit knowing I was pregnant or you were fired. This was not just one case. I heard it in 3 different healthcare systems on the shore, that the same thing, the lack of respect, the lack of understanding that nurses are professionals, primary care providers are highly valued professionals. They were disrespected. We have got to resolve that issue. We've got to have a blue ribbon panel move forward and work on these issues now so we do not have this situation in the future. And we have to re-engage our nursing and our primary care folks because the way they were treated does not make them feel warm and fuzzy about going back and working with the system. It's really very serious. And
Right.
most people don't realize that until they get involved. Something happens to a relative, and they end up spending 24 hours in the ER with their loved one on a cot in the hall with no blankets. This is not the way to run a hospital system. This is not the way to run a healthcare system. So that, again, is one of the reasons I'm here.
What's the experience in Talbot County Schools? Because our school boards have become battlegrounds here in Wicomico and especially over in Worcester County. Very angry parents don't feel like they've got a role in their kids' education, or at least that's what they articulate. Are you guys feeling that over there too, or what's going on with the parents in the schools lately?
Well, it's universal throughout the state of Maryland. We have it in Talbot, Caroline, Dorchester, and we have it in Wicomico. First off, you stop to think about what triggered all of this, and you look at what happened with COVID, where parents really didn't have a lot of input into what was going on. But you know what? We, the school board and the administrators and the teachers, did not have a lot of input on what was going on. Governor Hogan would announce, without having consulted with the superintendents, with any of the school boards, changes in policy, changes in the education, changes in how we were going to immunize, changes in the mask policy. So we, the boards of education, the superintendents, the teachers, were kind of just walking on eggshells, not knowing which direction we were going on. And so we tried to support the parents, but we didn't have all the tools in our toolbox that we needed at that time. The other thing that happened, and is still happening, is out west there are a lot of disgruntled people that don't understand the quality of education we have here in this area. And we do have a good quality education system. And I'm sitting here in part of the university, Salisbury University, which is very high quality. So we do value education here, and we do value parents' input into what is going on. And a lot of them have been getting information which is not factual. And so we try, I know all the school systems tried, to work with the parents to let them know this is what we are doing. If you have a problem with your child, please come in and talk to us. We can sit down, we can put programs in place for you, but we have to know that that's your problem. And I know people bring up critical race theory. Critical race theory came out of Harvard in the 60s, and it was a way of studying what had gone on with African Americans since World War II, showing how there had been discrimination. There is no question about discrimination that it was going on. But it's a study. It's not something that is taught. In the schools on the Eastern Shore, we teach facts. Then we engage the children in discussion so that they can make their own opinions about, was this a right decision that Custer made? Was this a right decision that George Washington or Thomas Jefferson made to have slaves as part of their farms? So we teach the truth, and then we engage the children in how they want to apply that.
The blueprint for Maryland, the Kerwin Commission, is coming online. It's going to take a lot of state funding. Are you going to support that?
It's already in the law. So as a president of the Board of Education, I have to support it. Actually, up in Talbot County, we had already started to implement a number of the pillars. We already had full-day pre-K. We're already working on getting our teachers' salaries up to the $60,000 mark. We were already encouraging our teachers, as they do here in Wacomico, Carolina, and Dorchester, to get further education so that they are nationally certified, and that's very important. But the key is the children. We have to put our students first and make sure that whatever we're doing benefits the child and not the system. But one thing I will say, and I have had very pointed discussions about, is that in Annapolis, they tend to mandate different programs, but they don't fund them.
Right.
And we see a situation in Carolina and Dorchester County where they could possibly go bankrupt because of the mandates. And that's one of the things that I have strongly pushed and strongly stand for, is we can't put mandates on rural counties that cannot realistically be expected to fund them.
Right.
So states got to fund what they mandate.
And 37B, it's interesting because it really is like the epitome of the Eastern Shore in terms of farmers and watermen are a predominant business. What are your viewpoints on those two industries?
I think we desperately need to keep them in place. We need a hand up when they have a problem, not a hand out, and they don't want handouts. I think it's extremely important that we support clean water and scientific farming methods so that we keep and expand what is happening on our programs with the Bay. And I know that you had the valley protein issue here, which was contaminating. That was fortunately resolved. We now have a situation over in Caroline County in Federalsburg with what is supposed to be a 25-acre salmon farm,
Right.
which would dump into the Marshy Hope, which is pretty pristine at this point. If that happens, then the prehistoric sturgeons, which are still spawning in that area, would definitely face hardships and maybe even extinction. But then you look at the big picture. Okay, we've got this salmon farm that's going to benefit probably a very small portion of Federalsburg. Even the mayor is against it. But what happens to that water? That water is going to go downstream. It's going to go into the chop tank. It's going to go into the bay. And then we're going to start to have problems. They're going to say, well, what happened? Let's stop that before it even starts. Let's protect our water, our air, our land for our farmers and our watermen. We have the opportunity to do that now, and we have to stand firm. And as your representative, I will do that.
Give me your 1-minute pitch. Why should people in Wicomico County vote for Susan?
Because Susan is the right person at the right time for Delegate to Annapolis for you. I'm strong, and I have strong background in education, healthcare, small business, great interest in our farmers, our watermen, and I really think that we have the best place to live, and I want to keep it that way. We also need growth, but it needs to be controlled because Greg and I haven't spoken about growth yet. Thank you very much.
She's Susan Delean Botkin. She's running for House of Delegates, District 37B. We're thrilled that she had time to be with us here today. Thank you, Susan, for being here.
Thank you very much, Greg.
I'm Greg Bazzer from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. Another edition 101 right here on PAC 14. Be sure and see all the candidate interviews on the PAC 14 YouTube page.